Hello everyone! As I promised in the previous lesson, today we will focus on drawing the nose. We will lay out the main shadows and highlights, and you will see how from a flat shape, it turns into a three-dimensional, realistic nose. Let's go! So friends, let's draw the nose. Let's quickly go over the main tonal placements. The nose will stand out thanks to the shadow behind it. The shadow on the nose will be about the same tone as the shadow on the cheek here, maybe a little lighter, and it will smoothly transition into light. The nose is illuminated, so it will be one of the brightest parts. And we will also show a highlight here on this part of the nose. Let's take a 2H pencil and lightly shade the overall mass of the nose. Now let's take the HB pencil and add a little shadow on the left side. Here, the shadow on the tip of the nose will curve, and we show this following the form. To show that it has a rounded shape, we curve the shadow here. And we see that here it goes into shadow, under the nose. Here we will have reflected light, as we remember, and we will show it with a kneaded eraser. To make the nose stand out, we will need to add shadow behind it. But I see that the shadow we made is a bit too light, so I think we need to add more. Compared with this shadow, it is lighter than it should be. It should be about the same tone, slightly lighter, so we add more shadow. For now, we can shade over the reflected light. We will show it later with an eraser or kneaded eraser. Here, the shadow is sharp, not smooth, so there will be a rather distinct edge, but still not as sharp as a line. It will blur slightly at the edges. We continue shading the shadow on the nose, or rather behind the nose. We show the shape a little, just slightly going inward, and then straight. We connect the shadow we made under the eye with the shadow behind the nose, so it transitions smoothly. Here, the shadow will also be rather sharp, so we don't make a soft gradient. From the very edge, we make it more defined, just a few millimeters. Then it will transition into the rest of the facial shadow. I think later we may need to adjust it a little, because I see that the form is not quite matching. But for now, this is enough at this stage. I think the tone will be fine for this shadow. And now we will take the HB pencil and extend it onto the cheek, but lighter. Add a bit stronger shadow here. And let's draw the nostrils. They will also be dark, so I'll take either 2B or 4B, but I'll start with 2B so it doesn't get too dark. Maybe it will be enough. And the second one. The second starts here, the darkest part. Then it fades into shading. Now let's take HB and make a smooth transition into the lower part. Then it goes here, also darker, and a little darker here at the very tip of the nose. Add a little here. You see, I don't shade over the reflected light yet, because in terms of tone, it already matches the photo. I just add shadows to the nose itself. And let's add a little more on the tip. Slightly more shadow here. Shade this area above the lip. Blend everything so the transitions are smooth with no harsh lines. Add more shadow here. It's too little. The nose begins to fade. Let's mark shadow here. If we make it the same tone as on the nose, this line will disappear. So we must add shadow below it, because under the nose there is also shadow cast by the nose itself. So we strengthen it here. Smoothly fade into light. We can even go slightly into this fold. Shade it a bit. For now, we won't fully draw it. But to keep the nose boundaries clear, we'll mark it lightly. Next, we see again that tone is lacking here. Add more. Since this part is closer to the light than the left side of the face, it will be lighter than here. So here we need to add shadow so it doesn't disappear. I think HB is not enough here. We need 2B because it will be darker. And with these layered strokes, we get a smooth transition. We change pencils from hard to soft. That way we get a smooth gradient. Here there won't be a harsh boundary, so we need to balance the tone. A sharp boundary will be only at the top, a little, coming out of the nostril. There will be a distinct edge, but further down it smoothly transitions into light, in this part. So we take a harder HB pencil and make a smooth transition. Next, we see that here it fades a bit. Let's take 2B and also show shadow under the nose. And then it will go lighter into this fold, smoothly brightening. Let's take the HB pencil so the line isn't too harsh and softly blend it in different directions. And now let's softly blend the edges around the nostril with HB. Here too, the shadows fade more gently. Now, following the shape of the nose with a curved motion, we show shadow slightly on the tip because it lacks a bit of shadow. We see this in the photo. We always look carefully at the details. This middle part of the nose will be lighter than the edge, but darker than this plane. Since it is directly in the light falls strongly here, but not as much on the sides, so here it will be a little darker. Looking closely, I see we also need to add a bit more shadow here. The highlight area will go approximately here. Later we can show it with a kneaded eraser, but let's darken a little more to show the form. See, I shade along the form, because the nose has a sort of pyramid shape. So this will be like one of the pyramid's planes. See, I blend it and the tone lays down softly. Let's soften the transition here from the eye. And here, on the contrary, let's darken. Because here the forehead begins, and as it curves, it casts a bit of shadow. So it will be darker here. And we make a smooth transition from the shadow above the brow into the shadow on the forehead, connecting them. This way we show the volume with smooth transitions. Here on the wings of the nose too, we need to show that they are convex. So below they will be a little darker and then gradually fade into light. So with a curved line we show this. I can even take the 2H pencil to make the transition smoother. Here it curves slightly. Add a little more shadow below. And here too it will be in shadow. I even think we can make the nose darker in tone, so that the image overall is brighter, more contrasted at the end. We can add more tone. And again we lose. Because we added tone to the nose itself, the shadow got weaker, so we need to strengthen it again. Add a little more shadow here, because here there is a little hollow. It's not very visible because it's in light, but it stands out a bit. So we strengthen it here. Yes, 2H is not enough here. I'll take HB. Now let's also strengthen the shadows we already drew. Make them slightly darker. See, when we go from the 2B pencil, which I used for the shadow, into HB, we get a very smooth transition. and we blend the two shadows together. Let's extend this shadow here because it looks cut off. We need to add more tone on the nose itself. Here, we need to add a rounded shadow here because of the nose bridge. So let's add a bit more shadow toward the center. Maybe I curved it too early. I'll erase a bit with a kneaded eraser. And take the 2H pencil and blend the edges of this shadow to make it smoother. And we need to place a highlight here on the tip of the nose. So we shape the kneaded eraser like this and lightly remove the tone. We can even use a regular eraser to make it stronger. Or take a blending stump and smooth it. This way we add more contrast. Make the nose smoother in transition. Use the blending tool carefully to avoid smudges. Here I left a small spot. I can remove it with a kneaded eraser. And here, with the blending stump, I go over all the shadows to make them smooth the transitions between shadows, first of all, and second, make them a little softer. We can also add a bit more shadow for contrast around the nose, because after using the blending tool, it got lighter. When we use blending, it fills the paper's texture. The paper still has grain, and the blending fills in the gaps left by the pencil. So yes, it reduces the tone a little, but makes it softer. That's why we go over again with a soft pencil to reinforce the shadow. For example, here I see it lacks shadow, so we can also go over with the blending tool and smooth it slightly. Same here. Blend a little, and we can darken these parts a bit more. Where the shadow is stronger, we add more. Also here, near the nostril, and around it a bit. Let's stretch the tone from the nose into the area under the nostril with the blending stump. I'll take the 2H pencil, and here it is a bit lighter than needed, so I'll add a little more here, and smoothly blend it into the shadow. Here too, near the nose, there are little spots, so we can smooth them with a harder pencil. And here the transition line came out too harsh, so we'll soften it a little. This part of the wing of the nose will become softer. And for now, I think at this stage, we will stop with the nose and continue in the next lesson. Well, you see, the nose became much more three-dimensional.
In the next lesson, we will draw the lips, and you will see how our childlike drawing will start to look more and more like a photograph. You will already begin to see some similarities, some differences. And, of course, in the following lessons, we will correct small inaccuracies and try to bring the drawing closer and closer to the photo. For now, stay tuned. All the best.